less meat, Teddy!
Okay.
And I should make you eat less red meat.
Save our planet.
Finally, the warring nations of Earth had forgotten their differences and banded together to save our planet.
Get switch. Save planet.
Trying to eat less meat. Oh my god.
Is eating less meat really going to save our planet? Or have we been misled by sensationalized headlines and biased research? In recent years, there has been a growing narrative that reducing meat consumption is the key to combating climate change and protecting the environment. Media outlets, activist groups, and even some scientists have pushed the idea that our love for meat burgers and steaks is destroying the planet. But is this really the whole story? Have important nuances and context been left out of the discussion? Are there other factors at play beyond just the act of eating meat itself? In this video, we'll take a deep dive into the complex relationship between meat production, consumption, and the environment. We'll examine some of the most common claims made about the impact of animal agriculture and see if they hold up under scrutiny. So let's move beyond the catchy headlines and polarizing debates. Let's follow the science, question our assumptions, and have a nuanced conversation about meat and the environment. Stay tuned. One of the most common arguments against meat consumption is that it requires a lot more water compared to plant-based foods. The numbers often cited can seem alarming at first glance. Producing just 1 pound of beef takes around 1,800 gallons of water. That's over 450 gallons for a quarter-pounder burger. Pork comes in at about 720 gallons per pound, while chicken uses 520 gallons. In contrast, a pound of soybeans needs only 256 gallons of water, wheat uses 220 gallons, and corn just 148 gallons per pound. Based on these figures alone, it would seem that switching from meat to plants could drastically cut our water footprint. So while the water footprint of meat, particularly beef, is undeniably high, the issue is more nuanced than a simple comparison of gallons used per pound of food. Factors like the type of water, the opportunity cost of land use, and the role of animals in agricultural ecosystems all affect the true environmental impact. While water usage is a significant concern, it's not the only efficiency issue raised about meat production. Another major criticism focuses on the potential food waste involved in feeding crops to livestock. A lot of the crops we grow, like corn and soybeans, end up being fed to livestock instead of directly to people. The numbers can seem shocking. It takes about 25 pounds of grain to produce just 1 pound of beef. That means a lot of the calories and protein in those crops gets wasted in the process of raising animals for meat. Critics argue that we could feed a lot more people if we ate those grains and beans ourselves, rather than funneling them through livestock. They see it as a poor use of land and resources, especially with a growing global population to feed. However, this argument misses some important nuances. First, not all the land used for grazing livestock could be used to grow crops for human consumption. Cattle and other ruminants can thrive on grasses and roughage that we can't eat, making use of land that would otherwise be unproductive. Beyond water and land use, livestock farming is also under scrutiny for its contribution to greenhouse gas emissions, particularly methane. Let's take a closer look at the complex role of livestock in the global carbon cycle. One of the most heated debates around meat and the environment centers on methane. Livestock, especially cows, burp out a lot of this potent gas. Over 100 years, methane traps 28 times more heat than carbon dioxide. According to the EPA, agriculture made up 10% of U.S. greenhouse gas emissions in 2021. Livestock were a big part of that. Cow burps and manure alone were over a third of agriculture's emissions. As we dive deep with these environmental questions, it's important to consider not just what the research says, but who is funding that research. The debate over meat's impact is not immune to potential biases and agendas. Funding can sometimes influence the questions asked, the methods used, and even the conclusions drawn. In the debate over meat and climate change, there are concerns about industry influence on both sides. Some of the most vocal critics of the Eat Less Meat message have ties to the livestock industry. For example, Frank Mitloehner, a professor who often pushes back against claims about meat's climate impact, leads a research center at UC Davis that gets almost all of its money from industry donors, including major meat lobby groups. This doesn't necessarily mean his research is wrong, but it raises questions about potential bias. On the flip side, a lot of the research promoting vegan diets is funded by animal rights groups and other organizations with an anti-meat agenda. They offer grants for studies and campaigns that encourage people to cut out animal products entirely. Talking of which, we should also shed some light on another area: industrialization. When we talk about the environmental impact of meat, it's crucial to distinguish between industrialized factory farming and traditional, sustainable livestock practices. The heart of the issue lies not in eating meat itself, but in how that meat is produced. Industrial animal farming is defined by cramped conditions, large-scale feed crop monocultures, and heavy use of water, fossil fuels, and chemicals. This system is designed for maximum efficiency and profit, but it often comes at a steep environmental cost. When we talk about the environmental impact of food, including meat, it's important to remember that it varies a lot from place to place. The climate, soil, farming methods, and technology are different in different parts of the world. Lumping it all together into global averages can hide these crucial regional details. Overall food production is reasonable for about a quarter of all greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. It also uses up half of the world's livable land and 70% of all fresh water. But these impacts are not spread out evenly. For example, a study in Australia found that the environmental effects of food production can be very different even within a single country. It all depends on the local farming practices and natural conditions. This doesn't mean we can't ignore the global picture. Climate change and other environmental crises are planetary problems that require planetary cooperation. But within that larger framework, a region-specific approach can help us find the most effective and equitable ways to build a more sustainable food system for all. Which leads us to another important aspect, the diversity. But let's take a moment for what Mother Nature has given to us. And if you are finding this video helpful, consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. Now, when it comes to reducing the environmental impact on our diets, the conversation often turns to veganism. Cutting out all animal products is presented as the ultimate solution for shrinking our carbon footprint. But is this really the best approach? A growing number of experts argue that simply abandoning meat altogether is not the silver bullet some make it out to be. Instead, they advocate for embracing a diversity of foods and focusing on sustainable production methods. As we navigate this complex terrain, it's crucial to avoid oversimplification and absolutism. Painting meat as the villain and veganism as the hero may grab headlines, but it doesn't capture the full picture. A more nuanced, inclusive approach can help us move toward a fully sustainable global food system. So let's welcome a world of diverse, vibrant, eco-friendly food, one where regenerative farms and well-managed pastures coexist with thriving crops and innovative plant-based foods, where traditional wisdom marries modern science, and where everyone can find a seat at the table. Throughout this video, we've explored the complex relationship between meat consumption and the environment. We've seen that while livestock production does have significant impacts, particularly in terms of water use, land use, and greenhouse gas emissions, the story is not as simple as it's often portrayed. We should also recognize that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. While reducing meat consumption can be a positive choice for many, a sustainable food system will likely include a diversity of approaches. From regenerative grazing to high-tech plant-based alternatives, the key is to keep learning, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going. By grappling with the complexity of these issues, we can make more informed, more nuanced choices about what we eat and how it's produced. If you found this video informative, please consider subscribing to our channel. We'll be diving deeper into these issues and exploring other important questions about food, agriculture, and the environment. Together, we can work towards a food system that is sustainable, equitable, and nourishing for all. Thank you for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section.